Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm so excited because we're finally going to be talking about the season 9 premiere of Summer House, and then we'll also touch on RHOBH season 14 episode 11. Let's start with the Summer House premiere. Ciara picks Paige up in Manhattan. It's so funny, after watching Ciara on The Traitors, it feels so weird seeing her in Summer House. And they did talk about The Traitors a little bit, which I was really happy about. Ciara says that she got 30 minutes of phone time every 6 days, which was such an interesting insight because I didn't realize that they give them their phones back at all. But since she wasn't allowed to look at social media, she just read her texts and she didn't respond to any of them. I would be the exact same way. I'm like the queen of reading a text, being like, I'll just reply to that later, and then you never hear from me again. West and Jesse are the first ones at the house. For the life of me, I can never remember whether his name is West or Wes, and I have to double check every single episode. I always forget. They, of course, immediately start talking about how nervous West is to see Ciara, and he said that the day after the reunion, he and Ciara met up at a bar, and she called him out for being a wimp at the reunion and not saying anything. Because I don't know if you remember at the season 8 reunion, but West was being a wimp. It was like really crazy to see. Like, he had so much shit to talk about her throughout the entire season. He was doing all of this press about her, and then it got to the reunion and she was just laying into him. Her and like Paige were laying into him, and he was just sitting there not saying anything. He was literally like cowering on the end of the couch. So good for her. My hope for Ciara, truly I think the best thing for her is if she is able to have minimal interaction with Wes this season. Honestly, I hope she has minimal interaction with any man. I think between Wes and Austin, it's really clear that she just does not have great discernment when it comes to men and starting relationships with men, and I would love to just see her have like a classic single hot girl summer. That's what I want to see from her.
The day after the reunion, we met up at a bar. I just remember her being like, you didn't say anything at the reunion.
You wanted to sleep with me all summer. You got everything you wanted out of me, and I got literally the bare minimum.
Like,
Your
you
spatial
just
awareness is off.
was off.
I was caught off guard, I think, and I wasn't prepared at all, clearly. I think her feelings are really hurt, and that's valid, and I feel bad for that. But, like, I don't know how else you break up with someone or how else you end a relationship.
Then the two new girls show up, Lexi and Bailey, and they're much younger than the rest of the cast. They're 26 and 27. I heard about Bailey, I think it is, that she showed up for like the first 2 weekends, and then either production like asked her to like commit to a certain schedule or something. Something happened, and I guess she went back to New York and immediately started talking crap about the show and the cast and all of this stuff, and then she just stopped showing up. So they basically had to like edit around her for the first 2 episodes. So that's why literally in this episode she's treated like an extra. Like, they edit all of her parts out because I guess by the 3rd week she just like stopped showing up. Lexi and Jesse immediately start flirting. I feel like, I don't know if I really like Lexi. It's definitely giving like kind of bland IG model, and she definitely just seems so like fake quirky. Like when she asks Jesse like, how many humans are showing up to the house tonight? It's just giving like fake quirky, I'm so funny IG model. It's like already I kind of don't really like her, but it's literally only episode 1. We've barely heard her say anything. My favorite part is when a new cast member joins a Bravo show and then one of the other cast members has to pretend like they've been best friends forever and that's how they got on the show. Like Amanda says that she and Lexi met at an event and she knows Lexi through mutual friends. Definitely not. They literally say hi and hug like they're acquaintances. So then everybody shows up to the house. I think everybody is there except for like Lindsay, Gabby, and Carl. And West says that he tried to hug Ciara and she like slapped his hand away. And Ciara says, she's like, listen, I would be over it if West would just stop doing press. And he's never gonna stop doing press because the most interesting thing about him is his relationship with Ciara. It's like, I'm sure if you asked West West, he'd be like, oh, we should just move on. Like, why isn't she capable of moving on? Like, I said sorry. She had her moment at the reunion. But he won't stop doing interviews with the New York Times and talking to his publicists about her. And like, did you see when he tweeted that like weird Slack interaction between him and his team when they like made a joke about Sierra or something? Like, I guess one of his publicists was like, oh, does anybody want to do an interview with Sierra? Like, she has an opening this day. And West just types back, LOL. It's just like sad. It's just like really sad. And like, it's giving fame hungry. It's giving desperate for attention. And when West first showed up on the show, I actually really liked him. I thought he was funny and I kind of thought he was like a breath of fresh air for the show. But now I am just so sick of him. He's just such a tryhard to me. He's so like desperate for attention and relevance. Watching Lexi and Bailey in the house is so funny because they give the vibe of like two fans who won a sweepstakes to spend a weekend at the summer house. Like, they're so much younger than everyone. They don't really know anybody there. They're like pretending like they know Amanda and that's about it. Bailey, because they're editing around her, Bailey looks like she's just Lexi's Uber driver and she's waiting for Lexi to tell her that she can go home. It's really funny. And like, Jesse and Lexi start like flirting, so I think there's gonna be a storyline with them. And then Jesse says that Lexi's a bit ditzy and Paige goes, I think she's just Canadian. What does that mean? I don't really know too many Canadians, so I don't know if maybe that's a stereotype about them, that they're ditzes. I just thought that was so funny when she said that. Oh, I think Lexi's a bit ditzy. Oh, no, I think she's just Canadian. What does that mean? I'm so happy we get to this right away. Lindsay and Gabby are discussing how she's gonna announce that she's pregnant. And what she does is when everybody is sitting down in the living room before dinner, she takes them through her entire relationship timeline. She talks about Paimon. She talks about a guy from like season 1. I've never seen seasons 1 or 2. She talks about, I think his name was Steve or Steven, but he went by the nickname Strava. Do you remember him? He would like play Minecraft upstairs to avoid talking to everybody. Then she talks about Carl and the proposal, and she was like, oh yeah, like 2 years ago, Carl proposed to me. And Kyle interrupts and he goes, oh my God, it's already been 2 years. Like, I definitely feel like that whole ordeal with her and Carl probably felt like it went by so fast, but at the same time, for everybody else, it probably felt like a lifetime. And then at the end, she brings out a poster board with the sonogram on it. It's so cute. It's so extra. It's so perfectly Lindsay.
5 years ago, Carl and I tried to date.
You guys are getting married?
No.
Maybe.
A disaster. 4 years ago, I had a boyfriend.
You have no respect for me.
How many sandwiches have you made for me? Treated me like a 1950s housewife, sending me to the kitchen to make him sandwiches. Oh. 2 years ago, Carl proposed.
Jeez, that was 2 years ago?
Yeah. And it's about 1 year ago, he abruptly called off the wedding and broke up with me. So here we are. My journey has been nothing short of disastrous, but it's taken that journey and every step of the way to get me to where I am at today. The biggest lesson that I have learned is that the universe has its own plan. And the universe and my plan, I'm pregnant.
It's really sweet. Amanda's crying. It's just like a really sweet moment. I am so happy for her. She's talked about wanting this since like season 3? I mean, she's talked about wanting babies basically her entire time on the show. I'm so happy that she finally gets her baby. And we know, because like she had her baby, I want to say around Christmas time. We know her name's Gemma and it's a girl and it's just so sweet. I'm so happy for her. I'm rooting for her and her boyfriend. We finally found out his name is Turner. And I think he's just a normie, which I love. I think he's just a normal guy with a normal job and he just seems like he really loves her. She said that that right now they like co-parent and they don't live together, and he just comes over every single day and they're just like working on their relationship, and they're also working on co-parenting, and everything's going great. I'm really happy for her. She also said that she's not really thinking about marriage anymore. I don't know what interview I'm quoting right now. I want to say she did an interview with like People, or like maybe she was on a podcast, but I read something recently where she said that she's not really thinking about marriage anymore because her whole experience with Carl kind of ruined that for her. So she wants to work on her relationship with Turner, but marriage and engagement is just not in her sight line right now. And like, it makes me sad that her relationship with Carl kind of ruined that for her, but also she rushed into that engagement with him so fast that it makes me kind of happy that she's not trying to rush into marriage with Turner, even though they have a baby. It's like they can just focus on the baby. Jesse is not pleased that there's gonna be a pregnant person in the house. He's also worried about how Carl is gonna feel, because he feels like it was just yesterday that they were all talking about when Carl and Lindsay are gonna have their baby. Listen, a lot of people were trash talking him for saying that, but honestly, it's like, I do sort of get it. It's like they come to the summer house every single weekend to like party and go crazy and drink and do all this stuff. So I feel like having a pregnant person in the house, I think Jesse just thinks that like it's gonna get in the way of all of that. I also think it's just sort of a reminder that like everybody in that house is just getting old, and like maybe they're all getting a little too old to be like partying in the Hamptons, blacking out every single weekend. And I mean, I do understand like feeling sad for your boy. Like, yeah, anyone would be sad if like the woman that they thought they were gonna marry even just a couple years ago, things didn't work out, and now the next time you see her, she's pregnant with her boyfriend's baby. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, if the roles were reversed and I was friends with someone who was going through that situation, I would be worried about them too. I think there's a lot of reasons to clown on Jesse. I don't like him. I think he is a clown, but I think this is like, yeah, I kind of get it. Lindsay immediately goes upstairs and posts her Clear Blue collab on Instagram. I know that's right. Do you remember the way that she announced her pregnancy was through a sponsored post with Clear Blue? I love that for her. I feel like everybody clowned on her for that. They were like, oh, like, is nothing sacred anymore? Like, even your pregnancy announcement has to be a collaboration. Guys, babies are expensive. Babies are expensive, and if I was an influencer and I had the chance to make a couple $100,000 from announcing my pregnancy in partnership with a pregnancy test company, yeah, I would also do that. Babies are expensive. This is kind of her job. Her job is to commoditize her life. Her job is to make content out of her life. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense that she would do a sponsored pregnancy announcement. If you saw the types of checks that these people were clearing, I think you would also do it. Then at dinner, speaking of Jesse being a clown, he sits next to Lexi, and he asks if she would describe herself as ditzy.
Would you describe yourself as ditzy? Would you? That was a question.
Literally so mean. I mean, she is ditzy. Like, I think I just called her that like 10 minutes ago, but you don't say that to someone. That is so mean. And then he goes into the confessional and he talks about when he meets a new girl, he likes to purposely push their boundaries to see like what's acceptable to them and what's not. And when he finds out where the line is, he just likes to overstep it just like a little bit. It's like classic like fuckboy, manipulative, gaslighter behavior. It's so disgusting. The fact that he admitted to it outright, he knows exactly what he's doing. I think it's so disgusting.
Let's get awkward.
Did you take the ACT?
No. Why, do you think I'm ditzy?
I don't know you well enough yet.
Free and fun loving. We stress all week about work. Why would I stress on the weekends?
I like to have a good time too. Sorry if I offended you by asking if you would think of yourself as a ditzy person.
I kind of was offended.
Yeah, I could tell.
I feel bad for that poor girl. I don't know where the disconnect is, because I feel like the audience can really understand that Jesse is such a fuckboy. Like, I really don't think I see a lot of love for him. Maybe last season, I think I saw a little bit, but I know this season, like, people are really noticing what a fuckboy he is. But it's interesting because the women in the house really love him. So I'm curious to see, like, if they're gonna encourage Lexi to get with him. I kind kind of hope, I mean, after Jesse's comments in this episode, I hope that he never gets to be with another girl in the Hamptons again. Like, I just thought that was so disgusting. It was so like freshman in college. I really hated that. Then we're doing a little foreshadowing to the Paige and Craig breakup. She's in the confessional and she's talking about how Craig is ready to be married and have a baby and she still isn't. It's like conversation that's as old as time, but we're definitely going to be foreshadowing the breakup here. Somebody pointed out, and I think this is so interesting, somebody pointed out that with the Paige and Craig breakup, it's really the first time that Paige has ever had to talk about her personal life on camera and like potentially have it be received in a critical light. It's something that I didn't notice until very recently, until somebody pointed it out, but Paige has basically played like the Cameron role from Southern Charm. Paige is essentially like the Cameron of Summer House in the sense that she has spent the entire time on the show being like a spectator, getting to comment on everybody's lives, but she has never been vulnerable about her personal life. And I think this season it's time. I think especially given like how much gossip is coming out after this breakup, I think it is time to really like dive into her personal life and her relationships. And I don't want it to all just be like jokes and like, no, everything is perfect. Like we were so perfect. There was nothing ever wrong. Like he's such a nice guy. I'm such a nice girl. Like I want to get into her personal life more because I have a feeling there's a lot of really interesting things there. But like you can't just be the spectator if you're on a show like this. It's not fair to anybody else who has to show their personal lives on camera and like have every little thing be dissected. And like here Paige is getting paid presumably the same amount of money or a similar amount, and she doesn't have to put any of her dirty laundry on television to be commented on. And we end the episode with Carl finally getting to the house, and like just before he walks in, he turns around and he talks to the producers about how he's nervous about seeing Lindsay, and they're kind of trying to talk him down, but like he saw the Clear Blue pregnancy announcement on Instagram and he's still trying to process the breakup. He's gonna walk in and see that sonogram and it's gonna be a catastrophe for him. That's the end of the episode. I think it was a really solid start to the season. I have a feeling this is gonna be a really good one. There are rumors that this is kind of the last season of Summer House as we currently know it. I think Andy Cohen made a comment that like this is the last time summer is gonna be like this, and I think they're either gonna do a reboot like the way that they're doing with Vanderpump Rules, or maybe they're just gonna end the show because they're getting old. I mean, Kyle is like well into his 40s, Lindsay is pregnant with a baby. It's like these people all just have such different lives than what they had when they first started. Like Amanda's trying to move to New Jersey and have a house in the suburbs. It's just like completely different. So like, I don't know, I don't want them to reboot it because I really like this cast, and I think if and when they reboot it, it's definitely not going to be as good, especially if you're casting people like Lexi. Like there's just these boring like young Instagram models. It's just not going to be good, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. For now, let's move on to The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 14 episode 11. Honestly, I did not take many notes for this episode. I'm kind of bored with the Georgia stuff, to be honest. I feel like it's very slow and there's like really not much action going on. Kyle comes back from a run and Sutton's mom scolds her for running so late in the morning. She said that when she used to run, she'd go at like 5:30 to 6 in the morning. I just think it's so funny that like Sutton talked to Garcelle about like her strained relationship with her mom and how her mom is like so critical of her and she wishes her mom would be proud of her and things like that. And now Kyle is getting like the firsthand Mrs. Strack experience. Like she is understanding what that feels like. I think it's so funny. I mean, it's like, yeah, this is just what moms are like. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them are jealous. A lot of them like want you to know that like they're better than you. And oh, when they were your age, like I was in so much better shape than you and I woke up earlier than you. Like that's just like what a lot of moms are like. We spend a significant portion of this episode talking about Sutton's dad, and it's really sad. Trigger warning for depression and suicide and drugs. If you are triggered by that sort of thing, I would maybe exit here. So we learn that Sutton's dad became horribly depressed and addicted to drugs when she was 19. I'm unclear if he was depressed her whole life and it just got worse when she was 19, or if it all started when she was 19, but they had to like drag him to the car and take him to the hospital several times, and he killed himself in 2002, 2 days before Christmas.
He would go on and off of them for years, and then he would self-medicate with alcohol. He was very confused, talking a lot about how he wanted to kill himself. Didn't know what day it was.
Really sad stuff. Really sad stuff. I mean, listen, you know I'm super hard on Sutton. You know I talk about how I think she's very immature at times, but it kind of makes sense, like, hearing about this and hearing about what she went through when she was 19, a lot of people say that when you go through a traumatic event, people kind of get trapped at the age that they were when the traumatic event happened. And I mean, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not trying to diagnose Sutton or anything like that, but I think it makes sense that like this very traumatic thing happened when she was 19. She's not over it. She hasn't like really processed it. She said it herself that she hasn't fully processed it. She hasn't like come to terms with it. So I think it makes sense that like sometimes she kind of acts childish when she's fighting with the rest of the women. Like, I've heard that there's a correlation between those two things. And Garcelle thinks that Sutton's mom is jealous because Sutton was closer with her dad. I have experienced something very similar in my relationship with my own parents when it comes to that. I think that's very much a real thing. I don't know if Sutton is an only child. I forgot if she's ever mentioned like having any siblings. I mean, they're certainly not on the show, but I think if she is an only child, then that can definitely like exacerbate that situation. I mean, honestly, this trip to Georgia just seems like hell on earth. I'm not gonna lie. It seems so tense and awkward, and like, I said this last time, but Garcelle and Kyle are such good friends for going with her to Georgia to do this, because like every moment in that house with Sutton's mom just feels so uncomfortable. We meet Bose's daughter for the first time, and she is so cute. I feel like she is so adorable. She is so confident. She's very like fabulous and self-assured, just like her mother. It seems like they have a really great relationship. I love her. I feel like they're so cute. It was just a really short scene. Bose wants her daughter to get to know her boyfriend. Seems like they have a great relationship. I'm all about it. I trust Bose when it comes to like, she knows the right time to introduce her daughter to somebody that she's seeing. I thought it was cute. Then later on, Sutton takes Kyle and Garcelle to her old home, the last place that she saw her dad. It's incredibly emotional. They were clearly very close. She talks about how like they would sit on the couch, and I think like she would play with his toes or something when she was a kid, and they would like watch TV, and she would sit in the kitchen while he cooked. I think I cried a little bit. I mean, it was really, really emotional. She takes them to like the couch where it was the last place she ever saw him. Very, very, very sad. I mean, I really don't have any comment on this besides just like, it's a really, really sad situation, and you never know what other people are going through in their lives, and I'm happy that she was able to take this trip and find some healing, and I think it was very brave of her. So now Dorit, Erica, and Bose are out to dinner, and Dorit said that she called PK the other day and they started talking as if nothing was wrong. She says that she recognized him again. It was the old PK. And Bose says that it feels like a trick. She thinks that PK is kind of trying to lull Dorit into a false sense of security before he makes the strike for everything that she's worth. Dorit says like, oh no, that's not who he is. He would never ever do something like that. Weren't you just talking about like 2 weeks ago about how you don't recognize him anymore? I just don't understand why she thinks there's something salvageable here. Erica is side-eyeing. She says that he's ruthless in business, which means he's gonna be ruthless in the business of divorce.
The advantage is that he wants to have the upper hand. If you are cornered like any animal, you're going to strike. He's afraid of how smart you are and how you will strike. Because legally, he can't go around town and scoop up everybody so that you don't have good counsel. Dorit needs to keep her eyes open. A divorce is gonna come. It's gonna take her totally by surprise. She's going to get the shorter end of the stick. You can't just stand still and wait for him to do things to you. You can't be a victim.
She is correct. Erica is correct. I am shocked that Erica is really like the voice of reason this season. I feel like she's just being really level-headed, and I've been agreeing with like all of her takes, both on like the Dorit and PK divorce and also with the Kyle and PK texts. I just feel like I've really been with Erica this season, and it's been a long time since I've been with Erica. I mean, I just don't think you go from saying like, you have a month and a half to settle this divorce, otherwise I'm gonna take you for everything that you're worth, and then just immediately switch to like, hi honey, how was your day, how are the kids? I definitely agree with Bose when she says that PK is just trying to calm her down so she won't act as quickly as he can. Sutton back in Augusta is showing her like capsule collection to her mom. Every interaction they have is just so tense. I mean, it's really hard to watch. It reminds me about like when my relationship with my mom used to be really tense when I was a teenager. It just like really is reminiscent of that. She says she doesn't feel like her mom is proud of her. She tells her mom that, like, I don't feel like you're proud of me. And then her mom says, why would you think I'm not proud of you? And Sutton says, well, you don't say it. And then her mom launches into this speech about how saying things like, I love you is so trite and inconsequential, and it's overused. Her mom said that when she was raised in World War II post, no one told her that they loved her, and mothers put their babies in the crib and they cried. It's definitely giving like nut job. I don't know how to really describe what I mean. It's just giving, it's like I'm losing the thread. I'm kind of listening to her and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying right now? I mean, honestly, props to Sutton for trying to communicate with her through that, because I don't think that I could do it. And it's like, whenever people say things like that, like whenever that generation talks about like, oh, when I was a kid, like none of us ever said we loved each other, and everybody was miserable but very proud of it, and everyone was just proud to be really strong. It's like, yeah, and also everybody who grew up back then was depressed, and everybody was in a miserable marriage, and everybody had a horrible relationship with their parents. It's like, yeah, that's how things were done back then, but you can't argue that that's better than just like telling your daughter you love her. But there's a happy ending, I guess, because Sutton invites her to California for her fashion show. I guess her mom doesn't like driving or something, but Sutton convinces her to do it, and Sutton's mom is gonna come to California for the fashion show. So happy for them. Great. I think after this episode, I'm feeling done with Georgia. I hope that next episode we come back home. I feel like I can't take any more of these tense interactions. Beverly Hills, more than any of the other franchises, tends to lean very depressing, and like sometimes it's a little too much for me. Like spending like 3 episodes in Augusta with Sutton's mom was really rough, and like, you know, Kyle has been depressed for like a year now. It's like everybody on this show is so sad, and it's like, I get it, not every franchise can be like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, but it's sometimes with Beverly Hills it really just gets to be so sad, and I'm like, wow, I really wish we could find a way to like have some levity, like just, or something at least like explosive, just something a little different than like the women in the confessional talking about how very, very sad they are. And I mean, honestly, I really appreciated this glimpse into Sutton's family life and her history with her dad. I thought it was so important. I think it's really gonna help a lot of people, the same way that like Mary Cosby's conversation with Robert Jr. when he confessed his addiction to her is also probably gonna help a lot of people. I just wish we could find a balance on Beverly Hills, because I feel like right now Beverly Hills contains more of those heavy moments than the fun moments, and sometimes it just really like brings me down to watch. But that's it for this week's recap. I think I'm gonna continue lumping in the Summer House recaps and the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills recaps together. I also started Love is Blind season 8, and at first I thought I was gonna do episodes 1 through 3 and then 4 to 6, but I learned today that episodes 4 to 6 are also in the pods, which is crazy. So I'm just gonna take a couple more days to watch episodes 4 to 6, and then later this week, before the second batch of episodes drops, I'm going to post a recap of Love is Blind season 8, episodes 1 through 6, all in the pods. It's actually insane that they did that, and it makes me worried for the rest of the season. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.